Welcome back. We're looking forward, as is Hashem, to conclude today Igeres HaKodesh Yud Aleph, the 11th epistle of the Alter Rebbe, in this segment of Igeres HaKodesh. So to quickly note before we go on, as we are accustomed to do, of course, namely for the newcomers, Igeres HaKodesh is the fourth segment of Sefer Tanya. We gave this introduction in the beginning of chapter 10. We periodically mentioned this, but a little more elaboratively in the beginning of Igeres HaKodesh Yud, the 10th. We're concluding the 11th. So you see there was quite a few classes on 10th. It's a bit of a lengthier chapter, and the first class we had this presentation yet again, but a little more again in detail. So if you want to see a little bit of the style of Igeres HaKodesh or understand about this very segment, you can look there again, the first class of Igeres HaKodesh on Igeres HaKodesh Yud, the 10th Igeres of the Alter Rebbe. And I say look there, this is on the wherever you're watching it, but I'm referring to the original website, which is Tanya Online, one word, tanyaonline.com. And all these classes, again, the advantages we also periodically mention. The advantages, all the previous classes are set up on this website. Easy to access. For example, we say the first class, if you get us 10, it's right there. It starts from the top to bottom. And you say the latter classes are on the top and goes backwards as you go through the list on the site, again on the left side of the site. So we do mention also there's an advantage as the text, the present class and all the classes come up in a separate scroll bar, easy to follow. And we do mention this from time to time as well. And to note on this very Igeres, we had a little bit of introduction, a backdrop of this present Yud Aleph, which is a very unique chapter, extraordinary step the Alter Rebbe took to bring perspective to the Yidu Ha'eved, which is an Eved Hashem, someone who wants to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Alter Rebbe, probably like no other chapter in the entire Sefer. The Sefer has 5 segments. We did mention that also in that introduction or that presentation at the beginning of the Yud, the Igeres HaKodesh Yud, the 10th epistle. So it had, and it's it encompasses really every aspect and every subject, every idea, and of course throughout the entire Sefer. Likutei Amorim is when you say Tanya, predominantly refers to Likutei Amorim, the Shaykh of Emunah, Igeres HaTshuva, Igeres HaKodesh, which we're presently learning towards the end of Kundra Sachin. There's no other chapter in this Sefer. The Alter Rebbe comes through so strong, so poignantly strong, as he sets the bar for the Eved Hashem, which is Amich Kulam Tzadikim. We're here. Anini V'reisi L'Shamash Eskenia. I was created to serve my master, or even more starkly said, the other version, Ani Loini V'reisi Elo L'Shamash Eskenia. My whole being here is really not, and if it is, it's just to the solely to serve my master. So the Eved Hashem serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Alter Rebbe, puts it into its perfect place at this juncture, Igeres HaKodesh, not only encouraging us to stay focused why we're here, and as such everything perhaps will be lost or shrunk to a minimal level, other bodily, maybe even animalistic desires, pleasures, covets, and so on will again reduce itself because we're so motivated to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're so have our eye and focus on the objective and goal why we're here. And when a Yid does that and expresses himself in all levels, intellectually, emotionally, in thought and speech and action, time and again, day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, of course everything else reduces itself almost to nothing, again, together with a struggle, especially the Beinoni, which is Nefesh HaBaham, his animal soul, as a principle of the Alter Rebbe in the beginning, in Likutei Amorim, which is in a fundamental base of the Alter Rebbe throughout the entire Likutei Amorim, which sets the real and true tone, how a Yid is meant to understand and appreciate him or herself. as they serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as they navigate their mandate and navigate their implementation of their mandate to establish a dira b'tachtenim, a boat for HaKadosh Baruch Hu down here in this world. They're meant to always know, and it's always good to know what the backdrop is as you step into the arena of this battle, that a yid has a potent nefesh bahamis. The Alter Rebbe writes, ki yem kitul dase, not necessarily would ever be reduced, the pull, the drive of the nefesh bahamis, which is important, again, as we explained there, how brilliant, how healthy this is, which doesn't allow any room for any errors, melancholy, even depression, because, oh, how did I have that desire? Yeah, even you're a Beinoni, you have that desire, but nonetheless, you have the ability to override that desire. You're not even allowed to be entertained even minimally, not even for a second, not even for a millisecond, especially when it comes to the subtleties of our choices, thoughts, and vision, audio, and so on. But nonetheless, the point is that we're able to go ahead and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with joy and focus and motivation and excitement and enthusiasm. And with this, of course, anything else, one way or another, is not reduced in its attempt to send those signals, and Shabbat will always send its signals to distract us of our learning Torah and doing Hashem's mitzvahs, and its way it's reflected in all areas, thought, speech, action, and so on, or action, speech, and thought, which is, of course, the bigger struggle. But generally, the focus and exercising this day in, day out, understandably reduces anything else, any other focus, the investment in matters of Elam Hazeh, worldly matters, animalistic matters, or even bodily matters. We're not so aware. Understand why we're here. Here, the Alter, as we explained, in Torah, you have the same mitzvah that it says in a way, mitzvah saseh, do so, but then the Torah comes even stronger and says mitzvah loiseh, so the same mitzvah, you shall not do it. And somewhat in this chapter, the Alter Rebbe comes through, in other words, raises the bar and says it very, very strongly, like no other chapter here. You have these expressions myriads of times, but here in the Sefer Tanya, you shall not have any desire of any matter of Elam Hazeh, nor in Bona, nor in Chaya, nor in Mezena, nor in children, healthy in all levels. We explain Chaya and everything associated with children and life and sustenance, which is Parnasa. Of course, nothing shall interest you. You should have any of these desires. Again, we explained at the beginning of Yud Aleph. In the first class itself, we took much time. We crossed just a little bit of the text because we underscore this idea, this novelty, this chidush of this peirik. How not only you should be driven to anything which is important, and consequently this would reduce itself, the other itzainus, you will not that much stay focused, but to the more so, you should have any desire, any motivation to any of this. Again, you could see also lined up over here, the first class, the second class also. We understand why the Alter Rebbe says, but the Alter Rebbe's beautiful explanation in this very chapter in Yud Aleph, and then we came to the final. Again, click away the other classes. I believe this is the fourth, if I'm not mistaken. And you see there how the Alter Rebbe, from the very beginning, towards the beginning, he explains this. How is that very possible? The neshama is invested in body, and naturally we have our bodily desires without being malicious or wanting to do different to what Hashem wants. But isn't that so natural? That to want to have these, that we appreciate when things are good and things are regular, even, which if we understand there's no really regular. That's what we thank Hashem. We acknowledge the Anshe Knesset Agdela really said. Just to quickly point out, there is no regular. Every day we recognize these are the wonders and the miracles because we're only honest, and the Anshe Knesset Agdela went even further. Evening, morning, you had the afternoon, you had a good afternoon, you had a good morning. No, this is Niflei Secha v'Tevi Secha. More so, Nisecha Shebachol, the miracles which transpire every single day. and around the clock, and we do acknowledge it, but we appreciate it that when it unfolds in a satisfying manner, and we don't really appreciate it, to say the least, when things do not unfold in a satisfying manner. Comes the Alter Rebbe, in other words, I'm inclined, I have those ritzinis, those desires that things should go okay. So comes the Alter Rebbe and says, I'll explain it to you. And again, the Alter Rebbe explains this to us in these chapters, in these classes, in these in up to where we're holding, in other words, in Pedig Aleph. But I say the classes which we covered, in other words, the material of this, the message, the Pedig, which we covered up till now, explaining this step by step by step. And again, click the previous classes. In the end, the Alter Rebbe concludes with such a positive note. As much as the Alter Rebbe is so demanding and unprecedentedly demanding, as we said, Yud Aleph is, a chassid knows, tell him Yud Aleph, you get a Hakedesh, Laskil Chabina, it's a landmark in the psyche of the chassid, of those who learn, tap into Sefer Tanya. But the Alter Rebbe, together with that, concludes the chapter and says that once we have that very perspective, and we establish it truly, authentically, genuinely, the way it's meant to be, then Hashem sees we truly have perspective. Then Hashem turns everything around and sends the bracha, the way we like it, the way we, meaning to say, and so naturally appreciated, not maliciously that I want to go away and just focus on the physical, the blessings of HaKadosh Baruch Hu just to unfold in the physical realm. No, very naturally. The Alter Rebbe even alludes to it. We mentioned Alter Rebbe adding the word Af she'eina yochel that we had in the previous class. The Alter Rebbe himself, as a Manig Yisrael, understands that there's a concept Eina yochel to fathom certain discomforts just naturally because our neshamas are invested in body. Again, to see the previous class, perhaps, but the point is that once there is establishment of perspective, Hashem allows everything to fall into place in a way that is satisfying, even for the guf, for the body, meaning to say the natural satisfaction displays itself and unfolds with all the brachas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is where we were holding the Yamin, and perhaps a continuation of the message. And again, from there, the Alter Rebbe will culminate the chapter in this above-mentioned manner. So we'll continue. The Alter Rebbe today's class begins with a continuation of the message, still a continuation of the message of the Alter Rebbe in this very Geras. The Yamin, so this is Kuf Yud Zayin on the original text, this third line, the first word of the third line, or wherever you want, or the corresponding English text, or however you're following, the Yamin, and you should believe, Sheba Emes Hu Chai Bahem, that truly you are living with this energy, which the Alter Rebbe spoke about in this chapter, which is the direct energy directly coming from the core of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Ayin, again, not to repeat, you can see it in the previous classes. Probably the second, the Alter Rebbe speaks about the Ayin, the Chachmasei Yizbarich, which is the source, Lashon of the Alter Rebbe, the source of life, the source of good, the source of pleasure. That's where you're receiving your life from, meaning to say that everything unfolding in your life is coming direct from there. There's no typos, we say typos, there's no errors, there's no, which usually that's immediately we translate, something went wrong over here. The configuration of energy somewhat is not coming through, or there's this disconfiguration, so to say, of the energy, and therefore things are happening on the ground in this manner. As you sometimes, you pour something and it's not pouring right, and you realize, there's just a little mess in the area from where it's pouring from, and it's coming from a different direction, and there's a little crack in the jar, as an example, and it's causing a mess, and you say it's not coming from the right place, or maybe different type of energies are somewhat unfolding in your life. Says the Alter Rebbe, no, stay focused. That by definition does not exist. There's no errors on high, ein, ra, yed, and l'mayla. There's no evil coming, there's no bad, if you will, literally translated, coming from above. As Alter Rebbe writes, Rak toiv kol hayoim, is the towards, I think it's the second, third class of this here. The final, I think it's the final words of that, which is the center of the page, a little over the center of the page. The lashon Alter Rebbe, Rak toiv kol hayoim. It's good because it's God. So if it's God, it's good, and we believe in that. Be'emes hu chai bohem. He's living with this energy. No, v'chol tzrocho v'chol inyono, and all your needs and everything associated with you. Mishtal julim be'emes b'protei protiseyem shaloi misiter achro. Evolve truly, individually, specifically, and Alter Rebbe writes, not only specifically, b'protei protiseyem, literally means you take that specific detail and divide it into more detail, and that final detail is directly coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Alter Rebbe adds the word Shalom Sitrach. It's not coming from the world of impurity, the enterprise of Klippa, which is the Alter Rebbe himself, is important doctrine of the Alter Rebbe, as he has it in Perek, in the Geras HaTshuva, he has it in Perek Yud Zayin, in Likutei Amorim. Also, you click away in Geras HaTshuva. Throughout the Geras HaTshuva, you have these expressions, namely Vav and Zayin, the 6th and the 7th of Geras HaTshuva. It's a click away. The Alter Rebbe says that when we mess up, it is coming from a different area, and then it comes from a different area, it causes a big mess, and again, you have to see these chapters. Alter Rebbe establishes important perspective, and that's why we have to be careful. A person has to know what conveyor belt they want to be on. They want to be on a conveyor belt receiving from the Kedusha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the purity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where what HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his inward desire and pleasure and alignment unfolds, or knows to be aligned with that area of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or Chas v'Shalom, to be aligned, to be in another conveyor belt, which receives its energy from the impurity, the enterprise of impurity, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu established, and that's where, understandably, all the negative signals come from. This is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a certain autonomy. Understandably, there's a grand master plan for this, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to have freedom of choice, but we have to make the right choice, because that's the reason why there is, so to say, Zelu Umas Ze Oselikim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu established it in this manner. Again, you can see all the chapters in the Geras HaTshuva and in other areas throughout the entire Tanya, the notion of Nefesh Elikis, Nefesh Baham, you have a godly soul, you have an animal soul, and this is all part of Hashem's master plan, because He wants us to have the freedom of choice. He wants us to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Service is when you have one choice, another choice. If you're programmed, you're not serving. And Hashem wanted the Yid's contribution, the Yid's partnership in the master plan of creation to establish an abode for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them that, so to say, autonomy, if you will. And when we feed into it, when we follow those signals, unfortunately impure, ugly signals, as Alter Rebbe himself laid in famous expression at the end of the 24th chapter, it's worth to see it, what transpires, Rachmana litzlan, when someone sins. In Likutei Amorim, the end of the 24th chapter, in the first segment, Likutei Amorim, again, it's a click away over here, if you're watching it here. And therefore, when we do Chas v'Shalom, we follow these signals and we entertain these signals. We're on a different conveyor belt, receiving our energy from, and it goes back and forth. We are aggrandizing that enterprise of Klip and Sitra Achra, and consequently, Hu Neitel Chelik Bereish, he would be receiving that Yid would be receiving their energy from there. And who wants to? It's like a dark place. It's like a kid just goes out of home because he goes into a friend's home, and it's a dysfunctional area, dysfunctional conduct, and he's just excited a few gadgets. The natural healthy child, after a day, maybe not even, would say, I want to go back home, I'm not interested in no gadgets. and no games and nothing. I just want the warmth of my own parents and the functionality of my home, that organized establishment of my dear parents, and so on. That's the healthy approach of a child. But initially they're excited. The kid came with a game, and I want to live there. I want to be in that home with all these exciting games. But that doesn't last long, because there's something which says, no, that's not my place. This is the life story of the Yid, because I aggrandized that enterprise, and I'm the one who's at that point on that conveyor belt, unfortunately, receiving energy from a non-good area. One might suggest that when things go wrong and things are not unfolding the way the person would expect it, minimally at least, and it says, yeah, that's probably coming because I'm directly connected to the Sitra Achra. As an example, Chas v'Shalom, so the Alter Rebbe says, and we have to reconcile. How is it here? There, the Alter Rebbe says there's certain times that you are receiving from the areas, the enterprise of Sitra Achra, the institution, so to say, the domain of Sitra Achra. How do we reconcile this with those chapters? Not for now, because intuitively you can understand. Here you're talking about a Yid which is generally aligned with Hashem, and things are not going right, and he or she are Eivdei Hashem, they're serving Hashem, they're submissive to the word of Hashem, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, and so on. So you see that the idea of receiving from Sitra Achra could cross this Eivdei Hashem's mind, and they're bitter because they're suffering one way or another. Again, there's so many different levels. We mentioned time and again. All these different levels should all be conceptual. Yidden should have everything they need, and to learn Torah, and to learn Chassidus, and to Mekayim mitzvahs with simcha v'tuv levav, joy, gladness of heart. Joy not only based on the excitement of being Avdei Hashem, which of course is the greatest excitement a Yid can ever have, but it should manifest in Tov Hanira V'Anigle, from the bodily perspective, and everything should go well in all areas, in Bana, in Chai, in all areas associated with Bana, and Chai, in life, and Parnasa, and in Revicha, as the expression is, in expansiveness, as the Rebbe says, as the Rebbe's message time and again, of a kulam Revicha, in all, in abundance. This should remain conceptual, but in this, as we're learning it, as we're navigating this Pedic, the Yid would perhaps say that things are not going right because, probably it's coming from that domain. So Alter Rebbe says, no, you Yid, you Eved Hashem, which is perhaps even suffering and going through difficult times, again, on these many, many different levels, again and yet again, shall they all remain conceptual, but they're on different levels of discomforts, and sometimes it's in all areas, sometimes it's in one area, sometimes it's in two areas. Hashem forsake us. So a Yid would say, that's because it's coming from Sitra Achra, and therefore somewhat there it's gray, it's not clear, it's not transparently evident that this is associated with Hashem himself. Comes the Alter Rebbe, says, no, Yamin, you should believe, Shebe'emes Uchai Bahem, you're living Bohem, with that energy, and with the energy of the source of life and good and pleasure, which is the core of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and everything comes, everything, and the Alter Rebbe says, but prati saying, because some they say, generally yes, but what about the details? The details of that Hashem himself allowing those very details to unfold. The Alter Rebbe is not suffice with pratim. He says, "Beprati sayim." Everything is coming directly from Hashem Shalom Sitra Achra, and has nothing to do with the negative side of Sitra Achra, which again, the world of Klipa, Kimi Hashem, Mitzad Geber, Kinano, the footsteps of the Yid, is coming. The footsteps of man, to translate it, of the human, to translate it accurately, is Mi Hashem, directly coming from Hashem. It's established, kinanu, it's erected, means established directly from Hashem. Ve'ein mila. There's not even a word could unfold without Hashem himself giving that kayach, that that word should be uttered. especially that word has an impact. Ein mila, there's not even chulu, etc. There's not one expression or even gesture can unfold if Hashem is not establishing and allowing that to happen. And this comes into the smallest details, most nuanced details. It's yes, directly coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if it's good, if it's you, it's good. Once we know it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing, it's Avinu Shebashamayim, our Father in heaven, Ein Ra Yered Milmaylo. So if that's the case, V'im Kain Hakil Tov B'Tachlis. If that's the case, if it's you, it's good. As Lashon of the Alter Rebbe, if that's the case, everything is not only good, but the absolute good. The only thing is, because it's unfolding in ways that I don't appreciate it, so I cannot comprehend this. So if I cannot comprehend it, does that change the definition of it? Of course not. Not at all. Talking about like a child. Sometimes a child wants to play with something dangerous, and the parent would take away that, and the child is devastated. Does that change one iota, one even detail of that whole taking away that item from the child defined as something negative? Understandably not. It's 100% positive because it's 100% parent, which 100% of the scenario is the parent wanting the ultimate good for the child. And in that very moment, pulls away that dangerous knife, as an example, from the child, because the child plays with it. God forbid, this could be really catastrophic. The child could hurt him or herself badly. So the parent would take it away. The child feels that that's a negative, that's a bad, if you will. It's a bad parent. I was just playing with something. You pulled it away from me. And many times the child would lament and complain and even cry. In Yiddish, the expression varvzach. but the what is actually unfolding is something absolutely good, because this prevents, this taking away this item from the child is absolutely good, because with this the child will not chas v'shalom hurt him or herself. The problem is, the reason why the child is not appreciating it, and to the contrary lamenting, is because the child does not appreciate what just happened. But that doesn't change the fact that it's good, it's coming from a healthy perspective and healthy expression, and it's coming from a parent which has absolute love and care and attitude of care and sense, that is, of care for the child. Absolute love, absolute concern. And that's the only reason why the parent took away that dangerous object, whatever it is, from the child, is the knife, whatever the example is. The child cannot understand it, so the child laments and cries, and how did you do this to me? And the same thing, it doesn't take away from the fact that if it's coming from you, Hashem, Nasak, so it's Taibetachlis, of course it's absolute good. It's coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The only thing is, I cannot understand. I would believe that it's meant to unfold differently. But that's your childish mind, one way or another. Again, not deriding the adult, which is trying to have that appreciation with their creator, or that alignment with their creator, and things don't go right. Of course, it's natural, right? It's natural that we somewhat are disturbed. But when we put it in perspective, we say, it's Hashem. If it's Hashem, it's good. And not only good, it's Teib B'Tachlis. It's the absolute good. Because if it's Hashem, the only thing is, I cannot comprehend it. And when I establish myself in this manner, and I establish this perfect perspective, the way it's presented here in the Alter Rebbe's Peirik, comes the Alter Rebbe, and again, this, we mentioned it a few times in the previous classes. This is where the positive and so encouraging ending and culmination of this very chapter. We mentioned it a few times to remember the Alter Rebbe is telling us that if we align ourselves, and if we so to say, configure this whole manner in the way the Alter Rebbe presents it, with detail and accuracy over here, understanding that it's directly coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and if it's you, it's good, and more so, it's the absolute good. Once you do have that faith, be'emes, adds be'emes, which is of course a deeper calling, that it ought to be truthful, that my mind understands and appreciates the entire message of this chapter, and I believe in this. I have that perfect faith in all this information, and when we do, Nase Hakol Toiv Gam Begoli, when Hashem sees that there's perspective, everything becomes good and unfolds positively, even in a revealed manner. At that point, there's a complete change, of course. The Eibishter says, Hashem says, I just want perspective. And once there's perspective, everything will unfold. Yeah, the way, the body, the neshama invested in a body, Nelam Hazeh, so naturally appreciates manners. When things go well, Nibbana, children, and everything associated with children, success in every area with children, in health and in parnasa, and all of it, bekulam revicha, and abundance in all. Nasa hakol toiv gam begolui, in a revealed manner, b'emuna zu shemaymin shahara nidme begolui. With this faith that you believe that this apparent apparent bad, if you will, literally translating it, this thing which you didn't make sense of, and it's something which on the surface it does seem to be negative and difficult and even ra on the surface. Understand? We say on the surface because from the core of our neshama, we really appreciate matters the way it is from the perspective of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But on the surface, it seems like it's ra. But when we have that emunah, that belief, that we believe that the ra, this what appears to be negative, and on the surface, begoli, in other words, appears to be negative because unfolding, unfortunately, negatively. And when we believe that kol chayusei b'teva elyon, that all its energy stems solely from one place, from the supreme good of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Chochmasi Baruch Hu, which is the Chochma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, she'eina museges, which is inconceivable, incomprehensible. As we explained, this is that level of Chochma, the Ayin of Chochma, vis-a-vis Bina. Again, we explained it in the previous chapter, in the previous classes on this chapter. V'hua Eiden Shalamayla Meilam Haba. That's the level of Eiden, higher than Eilam Haba. We explained it there also, but briefly. Eilam Haba is called Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, meaning to say it's a garden which is somewhat, has a bit of the energy of the Eden. That tells you that the Eden is higher than the Gan, higher than the Garden of Eden. And in Kabbalah he says, yeah, Gan Eden is Bina. Bina ila mekanene bekursaya, they bring Bina b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Nes, the expression in Zayar, bekursaya, in the throne of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Elam Bina, which this is even Gan Eden ha'elyon, Neshama is nenin, the Yeshvin v'nenim is Zivashchina. They appreciate the Zivashchina because they somewhat it's absorbed, they make sense of it. That's the whole idea of Bina, which is about expansiveness, elaboration, things which enter into one's mind in a way that they fully have hands-on in context of their understanding, perception, and appreciation. But this is the Eiden, the Chochma, which is beyond understanding. It's the Eina Museges, which is, of course, deeper within the Nevish. In this case, the way the Chochma is in the Nevish. And so in the way it is on high, which is the message over here, the Chochma of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Eine Musag. That's the Eiden, which is higher than Eilam Haba. And that's where all this is coming from. Nowhere else. It's coming directly from the Eiden of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the deepest levels within HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Yid, stay focused and understand and have faith. And when you will have faith that this is coming directly from the inner workings of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the core of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the absolute Tov, which is the absolute goodness. When you with this faith, it is literally translated, absorbed, and included truly this apparent negative unfolding. Now, today we use Lashon Ra, which in our eyes, it's not only negative, it's difficult to even comprehend that this could unfold from an absolute good God. Now, we just have to use the example, this parable of the child. The child thinks that the parent is is terrible. I was just playing with something. Why did the father or mother pull it away from me? So it seems that parents are bad. And this is where the Alter Rebbe uses this lashon that when we believe that with this faith is nichlal, it's absorbed, meaning to say it's this hara hameduma, this apparent bad, is elevated in the energy of that truth on high, which means it's unfolding in a certain way, and then it kind of becomes consumed or subsumed into the taiv ha'elyon hagonus, in the hidden supreme goodness, and that takes over in a way that it ultimately shoots down, and it unfolds exactly with that energy of the supreme good, but in this time in a way that it manifests in Boneh Chayim Zeina Revicha V'Kol Mervicha, in an explosion, if you will, because the energy in a positive way, in a revealed way, but Toiv Hanirav Hanigla, in good which is apparent, in good which is revealed, in a total manifestation of blessing in all areas of health, children, parnasa, and again as bekulam, not only revicha regarding the parnasa, but kulam revicha, because at that point, once the ra hameduma, this apparent bad, is consumed and subsumed in the teva elin hagonus, what remains is, in this again the hidden supreme good, what remains is that is lost at that point. Why is it lost? Because I put perspective. And it corresponds to what's going on in my mind, because here I made an issue of this, and I'm lamenting about this, complaining about this, trying to disconnect this from its source, from the Taiva Elyon Agonos, as the Alter Rebbe uses in the last week's class. I want to establish my own cocoon and not enter into the reality of a lakus, which is leading everything, every detail, pratim or pratiseim, and I want to make a establishment, the scene should be here, disconnected with the source. That's where the problem is. But the moment I make the connection of whatever's unfolding on this level with that Taiva Elin Agonus, and I establish perspective in my mind that it is connected, it's not only connected, every detail which is unfolding over here is directly connected with the absolute good of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So right now, in every detail of whatever is unfolding on this plane is directly connected in my mind, be'emes, not just with saying words, but be'emes truly with the Taiva Elyon Agonos. So everything over here shrinks and is completely subsumed into that Taiva Elyon Hagonos, because I put perspective in every detail which is unfolding, that it's connected to that Taiva Elyon Hagonos. So what remains is only that. And of course Hashem does have the relationship with the Yid at all times throughout the entire person's life, but when he put that in, he completely shrunk that and established the Eliyah, which means complete subsumption in the Taiva Elyon Hagonos. What remains is only the Taiva Elyon Hagonos. And that shoots down and unfolds itself and is manifest in a way that the entire Boneh Chayim Mezena, which is again this which a Yid encompasses all the realities of a human being in this world, the life, health, parnasa, and children, everything associated with children. This is the package of Elam Hazeh on this plane, is right now infused with that Taiva Elyon Hagonos, with the good and hidden good, which has the real atomic, so to say, the real infinite energy, and therefore when it manifests in a very different way, in a way that not only there's Bana and Chaya and Mezena, but Mezena Revicha, but of a Kulam Revicha, in abundance, reflecting that infinite taiv, that hidden taiv of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is truly believable, without any limit, and it manifests in every single area, b'taiv hanira v'hanigla, in an apparent good, and in a revealed good, and a full expression and a full manifestation of this good, as the Gemara says based on the pasuk, "Varikaisi lachem beracha ad b'li dai," that the blessing is ad b'li dai, to no end. The Gemara adds to the pasuk, "Ad sheyivlu sifsa seichem milei madai." That's how much the bracha comes and is manifest on the plane of on the plane in the physical plane, that is, and again in all areas. Shall it be so by every single Yid individually, and of course collectively. Yidin should be zeicha to that Tov Ha'elin Hagonus, which understandably will translate itself in only one way: the full Geula, Amitis Vashlema, the full and true and complete redemption, and will tackle, so to say, every single detail. The Alter Rebbe writes of every part of the Am Yisrael's, every part of the Yid's life, and every part of collectively all of Am Yisrael's lives, and the entire world. Every detail will experience true redemption, which will bring a true simcha and a true tev levov, a true joy and a true gladness of heart. May be b'mheirav yameinu. Have a wonderful night.